gentlemen, welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets. Now here are your hosts, Tim McMaster and Connor Hughes. Listen safely.
Can't wait.
The presenting sponsor for today's episode of Can't Wait is Visa, a network working for everyone. Welcome into the Can't Wait podcast. I'm Marissa Morris, joined by the Athletics Jets beat writer Connor Hughes, who is already in Denver. We are turning the page from the Jets' ugly loss to the Patriots in week 2. We are not going to talk about Sam Darnold and the 3-0 Panthers. It's Friday, and we're going to make this a positive podcast as we preview the Broncos. Right, Connor?
We're gonna try. I'll say it was positive that I won. I won a decent amount of money off of Sammy and the Panthers last night. I saw that line was under double digits starting the third string quarterback, so we jumped all over that one and at least made it a decent day. But I'll tell you what, I am like dragging right now because we had our flight was delayed 2.5 hours. There's obviously the 2-hour time change, and we're staying in Boulder tonight. So it's I had to drop Andy off at his airport because we ran into each other outside of the bag terminal. He gave the absolute worst directions of anyone I've ever come in contact with in my life and had me turn around 17 different times to get to his freaking hotel. So it took longer to get there. Drop him off. Bree and I finally get to my hotel here, and now it's we get in bed at 3, probably in fall asleep 3:30, and now it's 8 a.m. local time, and I'm talking to you guys about the Jets. So I'm dragging a little bit. I'm gonna hopefully wake up in the process of this podcast because right now I'm feet in the sand.
All right. Well, this is not a surprise, but we're going to start the podcast with Zach Wilson. After his 4-interception game versus the Patriots, we're going to move past that, and we're going to look ahead to this week. Mike LaFleur said Wilson got right back to work this week. What has this week been like for Zach Wilson as he's trying to bounce back? How is the rookie QB's confidence as he heads into week 3?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, Marissa, and we've talked about this a ton with Zach, is that his confidence is unwavering. He's not the player that you have to worry about going off on the sideline and saying, I'm seeing ghosts, like what happened with Sam. He's not the guy that's going to get so flustered and so broken off a game that he kind of goes into his shell and suddenly starts wondering, can I play? Can I do this? Did I miscalculate this? Why am I not still at BYU? You know what I mean? I mean, he's going to make his mistakes. He's going to take his lumps. He's going to have games that are like the one you saw against the Patriots. But I think Robert Saleh, not even so much LaFleur, is the one who said it best, because we asked him this week, did you ever consider taking Zach out? Because that's happened. Sometimes you don't want the rookie to do more damage than good to his psyche. So you take him out of the game, you let someone else finish it. There was a game that actually Eli Manning referenced during that the dual broadcast that he and Peyton do on Monday Night Football.
Can we just pause and say how awesome that's been?
Yeah, it's been really
Very
cool. I mean, those two guys are good on air and they're funny and they have personalities, so
Very
it was going to be good.
Yeah.
Eli was talking about how or they were making a joke when Ray Lewis was on about the game that, Eli was calling out the wrong Mike linebacker and he finished the game with a 0.0 quarterback rating. Tom Coughlin in that game actually took Eli out and put Kurt Warner back in, and let Kurt Warner finish that game. Now, granted, there is no veteran quarterback like Kurt Warner on this Jets roster, but still, there are times when you're like, you know what? Just get him out there, get someone else in there, let him finish the game. So there's, like I said, not more damage doesn't do more damage than good. Saleh said the reason why he never even considered doing that is he saw Zach's eyes and he saw that he never wavered. He never changed. He never gave off the impression that he was lost. Yeah, he made throws. Yeah, he made mistakes. Yeah, he did things that he shouldn't have done. And he, in a way, cost the Jets that game because, a 19-point deficit and 16 points come off of turnovers. I mean, that is the quarterback's fault. But this was never a situation where I think this was going to be weeks of him being in a funk because of this one game. This was never going to be something where he walked into the locker room hanging his head. I think Saleh was the one, or not Saleh, I'm sorry, LaFleur was the one who said it. He was ready to get right back out there after it. He wanted to immediately go back and get foot. He wanted to correct everything he did and get that taste out of his mouth. It's like a bad round of golf. It's no different than a bad game of football. It's like when you have it, the one thing you want to do is just shake it off and go to the next one and make it and just get the new feeling in your mouth, not the bad one. And that's something with Zach where I don't think the Jets have any concerns about it. They have worries about different things. They have other areas of his game that they need to be a little concerned about. Where just, it's a rookie, I shouldn't even say concerned. I think that's the right word. Just developing and coming along and things like that where you're a rookie quarterback. His confidence is not one of them. He's not shaken. He's not broken. He's ready to go.
Jamison Crowder did not practice Wednesday and Thursday. Does he look like he's going to play on Sunday?
No. I mean, we're going to know more actually right as we log off of this podcast, because that's when Robert Saleh is going to talk to us. So we're going to have a chance to actually find out what his designation is. But, the Jets had said that they were like, we're hoping to get Crowder back this week. Like, what you're kind of learning about the Jets is that doesn't mean that he's actually going to play. When they say like, oh, he's probably going to, that's a better sign. When they said we're hoping, probably not. So he didn't do anything on Wednesday. He didn't do anything when we were there on Thursday. We're going to see what he does today. But when you have two DNPs on Wednesday and Thursday, that's usually not a great sign for him playing. And I think that, I know Jet fans get up in arms because they don't want, Braxton Berrios to have the targets that he has. They don't want Braxton Berrios to be on the field as much as he has. But, I mean, he's a reliable, serviceable player. He's one of those guys that is always going to be in the right place at the right time. He's always going to be somebody that when all things break down and the Jets want to play this boring ball, Braxton Berrios is going to be on the location on the field where he's supposed to be, where Zach can easily go to him. So when Corey's not there deep and he doesn't have Keelan and he doesn't have Elijah, he can say, okay, I know where Braxton is. Just go bang, bang, bang. My reads aren't there. Get it to Braxton, pick up the easy 4 or 5. And he can do that 6 or 7 times a game for a decent amount of chunk yardage and plays that are, can pick up first downs. And I think Michael Nania, the guy who does all the numbers, went back and watched a lot of the film because we're still waiting for like that all 22 to come back on Game Pass. He had gone back and said that I saw a tweet from him that he found Crowder was actually open for first downs on like 2 or 3 different third downs or something along those lines. Berrios, I'm sorry. And Berrios is going to be the guy that I think like if Crowder's out, the Jets are going to miss Crowder because Crowder is an above average slot receiver. They're going to miss Crowder because he's a very good player, but there's not a crazy huge drop off between him and Berrios because Berrios is the guy that is still reliable, is still serviceable, is still always where he's supposed to be at the right point in time. And obviously it's not great. The Crowder's probably not going to play, but they can survive it with Berrios again.
Well, one guy that will be trying to disrupt all of that will be the Broncos, Von Miller. He looks totally back to form after missing last season with an injury. The offensive line played a lot better last week, and we saw a lot of improvements. But going up against Von Miller, what do you expect in that matchup, and is that a concern for Zach Wilson?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I mean, I think if you can keep Zach Wilson upright, he can have some success. Now, obviously, the Patriots threw that theory out in the water or threw that in the trash when obviously Zach threw the 4 picks. But I think that's a little bit different because it is Bill Belichick. It is the New England Patriots. It was the first home game. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that played into those struggles as much as it was Zach Wilson. You know what I mean? I think that there were it was a tough matchup. I mean, there's a reason why Bill Belichick does what he does routinely to rookie quarterbacks. And I still will go down in the boat with Brandon Marshall and Ryan Fitzpatrick saying that if you give Zach Wilson time, he'll be able to have success back there. I think the kid can play, and eventually everyone's going to see that the kid can play. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and it's only going to take him to develop and the offensive line to come together. Now, I think that this offensive line right now works better than the one that they trotted out there week 1. I kind of made a point of this in my story, and people got up in arms because, how can you say the Jets are a better offensive line without Mekhi Becton? How are they better without Mekhi Becton? Well, it's not necessarily about them being a better group from a talent perspective because they're not. Mekhi Becton's more talented than George Fant. He's more talented than Morgan Moses. But the grouping of George Fant, Elijah Vera Tucker, Connor McGovern, Greg Van Roten, and Morgan Moses, that group worked together for 3 weeks when Mekhi Becton was out. Like, they worked together for 3 weeks while Mekhi Becton had the concussion. They then worked together the week leading into that game. So that's about a month of snaps and a month of playing together, a month of sitting together, and a month of watching film together that these guys were all together for. the Mekhi Becton grouping where you move Fant to right tackle and Mekhi Becton takes over at left tackle, that group worked together for 1 week. And that was the week leading into the Panthers game. And you saw it. They weren't all on the same page. They weren't able to pick up stunts because they weren't able to communicate things of that nature. Now, when Zach Wilson stopped throwing interceptions and one was holding the ball, I mean, that's when the Patriots were able to get home and hit him. They had the 4 sacks or so, all but I think 3 of those 4 came after the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Jets only let up 1 sack in the first half. Now, again, when you attempt 10 passes and 3 of them are picked off or 4 of them are picked off, I mean, that plays a role in the defensive line not getting there because you're just throwing interceptions. But I think this grouping is the Jets' most efficient unit. Now, can they stop Von Miller? I mean, that's the million-dollar question. But what I will say is that right now the Broncos are Von Miller and will somebody please stand up? Von Miller has 3 sacks. There isn't a single Bronco player who has another sack. Bradley Chubb obviously was just placed in the injured reserve. He's a remarkably talented defensive end. He's one of those guys that can feast when Von Miller's out there drawing those double teams. He's not out there anymore. So who's going to be that player that steps up for the Broncos? Who's going to be able to get home? So far through 2 weeks against the suspect Giants offensive line, and even in week 2, I mean, the Broncos haven't been able to get home if it hasn't been Von Miller. I mean, they're very low in rushes. They're very low in quarterback hits as well. So if the Jets can find a way to, I don't think you're ever going to shut down Miller. I don't think you're ever going to contain Miller. But if they can at least slow him slightly, there really hasn't been anyone else in this Denver defensive line that's shown a consistent ability to get home. And obviously there's going to be other factors at play here, like the altitude, like the stadium. Like this is the fact, Broncos are undefeated and this is their first home game since the 2019 or a game with fans since the 2019 season. So that place is definitely going to be rowdy and rocking, but it's going to be hard to shut down Von Miller. No one's been able to shut down Von Miller, but if the Jets can slow him, there's not really anyone else on that Bronco defensive line that's shown a consistent ability to get home and wreck a game. This isn't like the Panthers where they had a group of players that could get home. This isn't like the Patriots where you had a defensive-minded coach, Bill Belichick, who could scheme ways to get pressure. I mean, you could have 3 or 4 guys who could wreck a game with Carolina. That's not the case here with this team. It's basically Von Miller, and then, like I said, will somebody else please stand up? So if the Jets can at least slow Miller, I think that bodes well for them being able to keep Zach Wilson upright.
We've talked also a lot about the run game on this podcast being the Jets' bread and butter. With Zach Wilson's 4 interceptions last week, and I know you talked a lot about him still having confidence, but do you see them going to the run more to try and, get some points on the board, give Zach Wilson a lead potentially? How do you see that all shaking out?
Well, it's what you said. That's their bread and butter. I mean, that's how the Jets want to. It's the 49er offense, right? I mean, I know it hasn't looked like the 49er offense because it's LaFleur.
Are you sure?
Yeah. The 10 points a game are a little different than what Kyle Shanahan are doing over there, and obviously Aaron Rodgers changes things up a little bit with the Packers, but they want to run the ball. That's what they want to do, and I think LaFleur actually made a really interesting comment when we talked to him on Thursday, and it was that. One of the reasons he believes they were able to have so much success running the ball against the Patriots, because they did. I mean, it was 150 yards and almost 5 yards of carry average against the Patriots, was that the Patriots are in so much man coverage. Like, they manned up on the Jets from the first quarter all the way through the fourth. And what he said was that, when you're playing man coverage and your eyes are on the man, it's sometimes hard for your eyes to be in the backfield. And even when you're linebackers and your eyes are on a tight end, your eyes are on your assignment, it's hard for your eyes to be in the backfield of what the running back's doing and things like that, which sometimes can lead to chunk yardage and impressive run plays. So I don't know what the Broncos and Vic Fangio are going to do. I don't know if it's going to be slightly different than that. I think that after the Jets went off for 150 last week, they're going to say, all right, let's shut down the run and make the rookie beat us. But that's going to be what the Jets want to do. That was the case week 1. That was the case week 2. That's going to be the case weeks 3 through 18. I mean, that's what the Jets want to do. They want to run the football. They want to keep this on the ground. They want to break off chunk plays of 15 and 20 yards. But more than anything, they just want to guarantee that every time Zach Wilson turns around and hands the ball off to Tevin Coleman, to Ty Johnson, to Mike Carter, they're at least getting 4 to 5, at the minimum 3.5. Because if they can do that twice, you're setting up manageable third downs. If they can do that once, then hit you with a pass, then come back with another run, you're setting up manageable plays. You're moving the ball down the field. You're methodically working way up and down against the field against the defense. And the other thing, too, is that we were just talking about Von Miller. The best way to mitigate that rush is to establish a run game, because suddenly you don't have a pass rush that can just pin their ears back and say, we're going to go get you. Look at the first 3 quarters of that game against the Patriots compared to the last quarter against the Patriots. In that fourth quarter, the Patriots knew the Jets had to throw the ball. They knew Zach Wilson had to drop back. So that pass rush could pin their ears back and go after Zach Wilson. And what happened? 3 sacks. They started getting after him. Zach was taking hits. Zach was getting beat up a bit against the Panthers. The Panthers shut down the run. So once they shut down the run on first and second down, they knew they could pin their ears back and go after Zach Wilson. What happens? 6 sacks and 10 quarterback hits. If the Jets can keep this game close, keep it to within 1 or 2 possessions, and then also get that run game going like they did against the Patriots, you're not going to have a defense and you're not going to have a player in Von Miller who can just say, I know what's coming. I'm going to run up the field and go get the quarterback. Because if he does take that approach, he's going to run himself out of the play, and the Jets are going to run the ball and they're going to take advantage of all that. So it's not going to be as easy, I think, as it was against the Patriots, because the Patriots clearly said, like, all right, we'll give you the ground game and we're just going to focus on like shutting down like different areas there. And we're going to try to make Zach Wilson just throw the ball, and we're going to take advantage of when he does. But if they're able to run the ball against Denver like they did against the Patriots, I think you're going to see a game that's significantly closer down to the wire than what you did against New England.
All right. Well, we are going to talk about Teddy Bridgewater and how the Jets are going to defend the Broncos offense. We're going to give our game predictions. And of course, it's Friday, so our can't wait picks. But first, a message from our sponsors. Growing up, cereal was one of the best parts about being a kid. But I had to give it up because I realized it was full of sugar and junk that you really shouldn't eat. Until Magic Spoon came along. There are 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. And it's only 140 calories a serving. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. You can build your own box with available flavors, including cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, cookies and cream, and maple waffle. So to get your Magic Spoon, go to magicspoon.com/wait to grab a custom bundle of cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code WAIT at checkout to save $5 off your order. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/wait and use the code WAIT to save $5 off. Thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this episode. Today's episode is sponsored by the NBA and their quest to advance the game of basketball, grow the community, and impact culture. The league celebrates its teams, players, and fans across the past, present, and future as part of its 75th anniversary season. That game highlights pivotal moments on court and beyond, from iconic plays in arenas to the impact players have in the community. That's the NBA, that's game. Like in the NBA Finals, when the Bucks had their backs against the wall, Drew Holiday steals the ball, pushes the break, alley-oop to Giannis for an iconic slam, seals Game 5 and the eventual title. That's the NBA, that's game. This is more than just basketball. It's what connects us all and keeps us coming back for more. That's the NBA, that's game. I just have to, before we get to the defense, I just have to read a comment we got in the chat from Terrence after that NBA ad. He said, I want to see Marissa dunk. In January of 2020, I actually attempted, we lowered the rim, and I sprained my ankle so bad that I couldn't walk on it for about 10 weeks. So yeah, you do not want to see me dunk. I used to be it was awful. It was really, really bad. Probably if COVID didn't happen, I was going to have to go to a podiatrist, but then I was like, I'm not leaving the house, so it doesn't really matter. I'll just sit. But yeah, not so good.
It's a 50-50 chance then here that your kids here with Michael follow his path to the NFL.
Yeah, I was way more athletic as a kid. I don't know where all of those genes disappeared to as I got older, but yeah. Not the greatest. I like to play sports, but just not the best. I like to talk about them more. And I also like to talk about stories. And, Teddy Bridgewater is a really
transition, Tim.
Yeah, I'm trying to make the transition back to, on track to the rundown. But Teddy Bridgewater is a crazy story. I mean, he's bounced around everywhere and he's having a really great year. He is a former Jet, friend. He signed with the Jets in March of 2018, but then was traded to the Saints at the end of training camp. What do you remember about Bridgewater's time in New York, Connor?
Well, he was the best quarterback that camp. I think that was obvious. And the whole thing with the Jets signing Teddy was like, they were obviously in negotiations with Kirk Cousins. It went down to the wire. It's infamous now that the Jets actually offered Kirk Cousins more money than the Minnesota Vikings, gave him the same guaranteed contract. And as Kirk Cousins showed on his Facebook page that the Jets had or Facebook TV show or whatever the hell that was, the Jets had no idea was taking place. He basically says the Jets offer me more money, but I'm still going to the Vikings. So that's just a slap. It was just a classless thing that Kirk Cousins did with that. I mean, it really was pathetic. But he went elsewhere, so the Jets pivoted, and that was like Mike McCagnon's thing, was that he had his plan that year, and his plan was that we were going to get Kirk Cousins, or if we didn't get Kirk Cousins, we were going to trade up in the draft to number 3, where they thought they were trading up for Baker Mayfield, and in addition to that, they were going to bring back Josh McCown, and then they were going to sign Teddy Bridgewater. And their thought with Teddy Bridgewater was like, okay, here's an opportunity to bring in a kid who has now gotten healthy. He's got a clean bill of health. He's looking for an opportunity to play. He's looking for an opportunity to compete. And we might have a chance to sign a veteran quarterback who can start, who can win football games, who has proven to win football games, and hold the fort down until the rookie that we draft is ready to go. Now, the thing with Teddy, though, is that it was never with the Jets about Teddy Bridgewater. It was never about who was going to be the best quarterback in camp. It wasn't about, was Josh McCown, because remember, that was the year they had Josh McCown, Sam, and Teddy. So it was never about who was the best quarterback of the 3, and that best quarterback of the 3 was going to start in week 1 against the Lions. It was going to be whenever Sam was ready, Sam was going to play. And I think we saw very, very early on the joint practices against Washington were a time, but there were several just practices where you saw like Sam didn't need to sit. Sam was ready to start in the NFL. He was ready to be out there week 1 and start taking his bumps, taking his bruises, and start his development. Very similar to Zach Wilson, where the Jets were like, all right, this kid's ready to play, so why even bring in the veteran, which is another topic for another day, but why bring in the veteran? We're going to start the rookie. We'll go with Mike White behind. I can't get into that now. I don't have I can't rant about that today. But we
actually did get some questions about that in the chat. That, do you think the Jets don't have this veteran guy because the media and the fans would be calling for that veteran guy to come in?
No.
Okay.
No one.
Okay.
No, it's all
okay.
no.
I'm just communicating.
No, seriously. No, I get that. But like, no one clamored for Teddy to play. Everyone's ripping the hell out of the 49ers because Trey Lance isn't playing. They're ripping the hell out of the Bears because Justin Fields isn't playing until this week. But no, it's not that at all.
Yeah, but if there was a veteran guy behind Zach Wilson, say last week in that Patriots game, after 4 interceptions, do you say bring in X, get this rookie out of the game?
No, because after what Salah said about his eyes. Like, I mean, if Zach's if he looks like a fish out of water, then yes. Like, if he looks like a fish out of water, then absolutely you do it and absolutely bring him in. And you say, like, there's, this is like the Eli Manning thing. Eli had a 0.0 quarterback rating against the Ravens and was trying to identify a Mike, and the Mike was telling him, no, I'm not the Mike, he's the Mike. And like, that's when okay, it's time to sit down and it's time to take a breather. It's time to take a break. That wasn't, Zach was making bad reads. Zach was making bad, but his lumps he's taking now, which will benefit him down the road. There was never a point where it was like, just, get him out of the game. He's a detriment to himself right now. Like, it was never that. It really wasn't. It was not. So no, it wasn't. No, it was never that. The difference was with Teddy was like, he was undeniably the best quarterback in camp that year. Like, he was, and he should have, if you were going based off of just performance, Teddy played well enough to turn around and say, okay, let him work with the starters. But what the Jets also saw was that Sam Darnold, like I said, was ready to play. Like, Sam was at a point now where it wasn't like he needed to sit. He needed to observe. He was showed enough where he was willing to, and the Jets' thought process, which is what every team's thought process should be, is that once the rookie's ready, get the rookie out there, let him take his lumps now, because it's going to benefit him in week 3 compared to week 2, week 5 compared to week 4, week 10 compared to week 8, and so on and so forth, and definitely in year 2 and definitely in year 3, assuming you sign around your quarterback with protection of playmakers, which obviously the Jets didn't do. So what the Jets did was they just played Teddy against the twos in every preseason game, and they played him against the twos in practice. And their thought process, and one of the reasons why they just did not give him second team or first team reps in the preseason, is like, just let the guy go beat up on the second team. Let him go take care of second team defenses and third team defenses and look really, really good against second team defenses and third team defenses, so that you kind of boost his value a little bit. And then eventually someone will call us and we can flip Teddy for a draft pick. And that's what they did. Now, Teddy made a great impact. Every player here loved him. Todd Bowles loved him. Jeremy Bates loved him. Josh McCown and Sam Darnold loved him. I mean, Teddy was the life of the party, just like he was in New Orleans and just like he's going to be now in Carolina. Like, he's a player that people gravitate towards.
Denver.
They just like Denver. Yeah, sorry.
Sam Darnold's the one in Carolina.
No, he was in Carolina last year, though. So he was Carolina last year, Denver this year. Sorry, like I said, still bringing it all together. But everywhere he goes, he is the life of the party. Everywhere he goes, he is the player that everyone wants to be around. And he was that way with the Jets as well. But with the Jets, it was never about Teddy. It was never about what Teddy was going to do. It was always about when Sam Darnold was ready to play, Sam Darnold was going to play. And Sam Darnold showed very early on in training camp that he was going to be ready to go. So it was just about getting Teddy stock to a point where the Jets could get something back for him. And they did. You know, they sent him to the Saints where they got back, I think it was a second round pick, right? It was a decent amount of draft compensation from the Saints. And, you know, now the Jets get to see him for the first time.
Yeah, so Teddy today is having an excellent season. I mean, this was versus the Jaguars last week, but 26 for 34, 328 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Jets defense has been playing well throughout the first 2 weeks, but
yeah,
what is their game plan to defending him, and how do you see this all shaking out?
Well, I know he's averaging like 10 yards a carry or 10 yards a pass or something like that, or 10 yards an attempt, but like make no mistake about it. Teddy's not a bomber. Teddy's not going to throw it yards on the field. Teddy's not going to take the huge shots. I mean, he is limited in what he can do somewhat with his arm because he does not have the strongest arm in the NFL. He also doesn't have the ability to make every throw in the NFL, like in the book. Like, that's the thing, is it's not about everyone having like Ben Roethlisberger arm strength or Josh Allen arm strength or Zach Wilson arm strength or Pat Mahomes arm strength. You don't need that, but you need the ability to make every throw. And Teddy can't hit the out from the opposite hash 20 yards on a line, on a rope. He doesn't have the arm strength, but he does other things very well. He's mobile within the pocket. He does not make mistakes. He can dink and dunk with the best of them. And when there's the guy open 15 yards down the field, he's going to find him. Like, he's going to find the open guys. So for the Jets, I think it's honestly just going to come down to the defensive line. I think it's going to be like, I'm not necessarily worried about the Broncos rushing attack. I'm not worried about the Broncos receivers. I'm not necessarily worried that much about Teddy, but the thing is that when you have an offense that doesn't make mistakes, sometimes they'll outlast you. Like the Jaguars last week made more mistakes. The Giants, when they played the Broncos in week 1, they made more mistakes. And when you make more mistakes than a team that doesn't make any, you're going to lose the game. So for the Jets, I think they're going to have to be in a position where they get home. They're going to have to pressure Teddy. They're obviously going to have to take away the run, because if you start getting beat up on the ground against a quarterback that's going to dink and dunk and you open the play action pass, then you're screwed. So they're going to have to take away the run. But assuming they can take away the run, which they've been able to do pretty well aside from Christian McCaffrey and one broken play where it was just a morally depleted Damian Harris touchdown run. I mean, they were able to take away that run against the Broncos or the Patriots. Like, they were able to take the ground game out of the factor against the Patriots. The Panthers was Christian McCaffrey's unbelievable. Like, that's just, I don't think there's like, I mean, you saw it last night too. Like, there's so many, like, it's just very hard for a team to take away Christian McCaffrey. In fact, the only person that can stop Christian McCaffrey is Christian McCaffrey's hamstring. Like, that's pretty much it. But I think if you can take away the ground and then just pressure the quarterback, and you have to constantly, consistently be in Teddy's face and hope you can punch a ball out, force the turnover, hope you can get him to throw one of the 5 interceptions he's going to throw this season. If you can get him to that point, defensively, I think the Jets can keep him in this game. And then what it's going to come down to is what it came down to week 1, what it came down to week 2. Can the Jets offense score enough points? That's honestly what this is, because what we've seen, which I did not think was going to be the case when this season started, I thought that the Jets defense was going to be this team's Achilles heel. I thought that it was going to be games of 35-28, 31-23. There were going to be games where the Jets offense, was looked good and the Jets defense just could not stop a nosebleed. And instead, the Jets trotted out a defensive performance week 1 that was good enough to win. They trotted out a defensive performance in week 2 that was good enough to win. They just haven't gotten anything from the offense that's averaging 10 points a game, which is not good. Like, it's just not. It's not. You need more than that. And it's kind of been a script that I didn't see coming. But if the Jets offense can get out of its own way finally, and the defense can force some turnovers and just not fall, like, shut down the run and force some turnovers, I think that the Jets have the ability to keep this one close. I do. But obviously, like, we haven't seen an offense that can score points. You know what I mean? And the defense is playing in Mile High, playing here in this altitude. It's going to play a role. So I think more than anything, it's going to come down to shut down the quarterback or shut down the run and pressure the quarterback. That's the two things the Jets need to do. Absolutely, if they want to keep this one close.
All right. Well, Connor is going to give his final score predictions, and we are going to do our can't wait picks. But first, one more quick message from our sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by DirecTV Stream. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbors, best friends login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way that you can get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. It's called DirecTV Stream. And it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before. So you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. This means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Reserve Bar is the online source of premium and luxury spirits, wine, and champagne. Visit reservebar.com to create the perfect home bar or have the ideal gift delivered. It's also where you'll find the best in new and hard-to-find bottles and those celebrity spirits you've been wanting to try. No one does spirits gifting better than Reserve Bar. You can have a bottle custom engraved with a name, date, or logo to create the perfect gift. The website is so easy to use. I just ordered some wine the other night. Visit reservebar.com today and use promo code WAIT to save $10 off your purchase of $75 or more on spirits, wine, or pre-made cocktails, but only when you use our special code at reservebar.com, code WAIT. That's reservebar.com with the code WAIT. This offer expires December 31st, 2021. All right, Connor, it's time for our predictions. The Jets 0-2. Where do you see this one going in Denver?
I think they saw the line. What is the line officially at the moment? Like, I wanted to bring that up. Did you know? Like, the Jets?
I'm not sure. Let's pull up that MGM and check that one out. This is live podcasting. This is
10.5.
Hold
I have
on.
it at 10.5 as of 2 days ago.
Yes.
Yeah, 10.5. So that's a thick line. So, I mean, I don't think the Jets win this game. I think they're going to fall to 0-3. That's no doubt in my mind there. But I will say that I think that 10.5 is pretty thick. And the one thing that the Jets have done defensively is that they've shown they can keep offenses in check, which is something that we didn't think would happen. And when you see lines that bolster up and boost up this much, 10.5, 11.5, 12.5, I mean, those are big lines. Usually that's when the defenses are really, really bad. I think Zach Wilson's going to have a bounce back game. I think Zach Wilson's going to be better. I think the fact that Bradley Chubb's not playing and really the only player that the Broncos have is Von Miller, who the Jets are going to put a tackle on, a tight end on, and a running back on probably all at the same time just to make sure he doesn't get through. I think the Jets offense is going to be better. I think Zach Wilson's going to be better. I think the defense, if you base off of what you've seen the first 2 weeks, can keep this one respectable. And if that's the case, a 10.5 line in the NFL is big. I mean, that's an 11-point victory they need to cover that game. I think the Jets will cover here. Unfortunately, I felt this way against the Patriots too and was dead wrong. Although, you know, the offense did literally anything. It is a close game. So I'm taking the Jets plus 10.5 just to get the points there. But it's not my pick for the week. It's not one of my 3 picking, but because we just do the Jets games, I am going to take the Jets 10.5 because I think the defense will be able to keep the Broncos offense in check reasonably well. And then I think the Jets offense will be better. So maybe a 7-point game, maybe a 10-point game, but having that half point on the 10.5 spread, I think is big.
All right,
easily say, honestly, not to interrupt you. I could honestly see this being like a 30-20 game, something like that. You know what I mean? And if that's the case, it covers.
All right. Well, we are going to give our picks, but real quick, maybe not real quick, depending on your answer on this one, because this is a pretty loaded question. But the Jets, if they do fall 0-3, how does the pressure mount on Joe Douglas?
Well, I don't think the pressure mounts on Joe Douglas if they fall to 0-3 because they've pretty much said that this is a rebuilding season. They've said that this is I'll tweet this out though because this is like Because people will want to tune in for this.
So if you're in the chat right now listening, what's your reaction if the Jets fall 0-3, and how do you feel about what Joe Douglas has done so far in New York?
Yeah.
While Connor is typing.
I did. I sent it. It's quick. So the whole thing is that if it doesn't impact anything with Joe if they fall 0-3, it doesn't, because it's they know this is a rebuilding year. They know they're not going to be very good. Like, there's so many things playing in Douglas's, like, it is what it is. Like, that's the fate. It's a rebuild, first year coach, first year quarterback. They lost to 3 pretty decent teams. It's not going to destroy Joe Douglas. It's not like Joe Douglas is still on the hot seat. In fact, barring 0-17, I don't think there's anything that can happen this year that would legitimately put Joe, like, oh, we might make a change of general manager. Like, other than 0-17, there's nothing there. With that said, it's absolutely reason to start thinking about criticizing Joe. It's absolutely to the point where you can start to wonder if it's right. Now, I've been told by so many people and heard so many people sing this guy's praises and say he's the right one. And maybe he is. I mean, that's why I'm believing in it, because I've had people that are a lot smarter than me, people that know a lot more football than me, say the Jets got this one right. That, holy cow, how did the Jets actually manage to sign Joe Douglas? How did they get him here? He's the right call. But if you look at this one in a vacuum and you just analyze what he has done in his job as a general manager so far, you want to see progress. You want to see legitimate steps in the right direction. It shouldn't take 12 years to rebuild a team. Look, I'm not saying the Jets should be a playoff team this year. I'm not saying the Jets should be very good this year. I'm not saying the Jets should even be a decent team this year. But you should see the progress coming forward. You should see the visual evidence that the Jets are becoming a better football team week in and week out, year in and year out. The 2019 season where the Jets finished 7-9, that was not Joe Douglas's team. It was Mike Maccagnan's team. That was Mike Maccagnan who ran free agency that year. That was Mike Maccagnan who picked the coach that year. That was Mike Maccagnan who ran the draft that year. The only thing that Joe Douglas really did was try to Band-Aid fix the center position because Mike ignored it, and bring in Ryan Cleo, which obviously didn't work. But I don't fault Joe for that, because what else was he supposed to do in that moment? Like, there was nothing else he could do. So he took a flyer and tried to see if he could squeeze a little last juice out of that orange. Mike or Joe's first year as GM, where he had the draft and free agency, the Jets went 2-14. Joe's second year, as general manager, the Jets are trending towards 0-3, potentially a 3-4 at best 5-win season, probably closer to 3 or 4 win season this year. That'd be five wins in 2 years as a general manager. And the whole thing with coachings and stuff like that is that there's always a crosshair on somebody when a team's not winning. Like, there is somebody who's going to receive the blame when the team is not performing well. And when Adam Gase was here, it was Adam Gase. So Joe avoided the bullets. When Adam Gase got fired and they replaced him with Robert Saleh is now on the honeymoon. Joe Douglas is over. So I'm not willing to say yet, like, oh, fire Joe after this year, after a 3 or 4 win team. But I think we talked about a little bit on the podcast last week, Marissa, is that what I'm very curious to see, what I'm very fascinated to see, is that if the Jets go with 3 wins, 4 wins this year, which is kind of what I see them getting, say 4 wins, and Joe has 6 wins in his first 2 years as general manager, does he feel some pressure from Woody Johnson, who's now back, to turn this around quicker? And will you see his off-season approach in free agency change? Because he's been the guy that, even when he gives out quote unquote big money deals, they're not real big money deals. You know what I mean? Like, the Jets can get out of this Lawson deal, this Carl Lawson deal, after 2 years. They can get rid of Corey Davis after 2 years. Like, every contract has something built in after 2 years. This is not like the CJ Mosley deal. This isn't like the Tremaine Johnson deal. This isn't like the Mo Wilkerson or Darrelle Revis deal, where there's like, you're locked into a player and you're paying them a ton of money. I'm curious if Joe ramps things up this coming off season and is much more aggressive, feeling the heat a little bit, because obviously the 2021 draft class looks pretty good, right? Like, that one looks pretty decent. It looks like the Jets got some pretty good players, if you believe in Zach Wilson, Verrett Tucker, Moore, Mike Carter, all those things. But obviously the jury's still out because it's a rookie class. The 2020 class doesn't look really good. It really doesn't. I mean, Mekhi Becton was having a bad summer. And aside from him having a bad summer, durability was a big concern of his coming out of Louisville. He missed a ton of time in year 1, and now he's missing a ton of time in year 2. So the Jets drafted a guy who had injury concerns and some durability concerns, and now in his first 2 years has had durability and injury concerns. Denzel Mims cannot get on the field. He's your second-round pick. Jabari Zuninga, one of the Jets' third-round picks, he's cut and on the practice squad. LaMichael Pirine, who Denzel Mims not playing and constantly being a healthy and active last week, probably a healthy and active this week, has hidden the fact that LaMichael Pirine, the Jets' fourth-round pick, is also a healthy and active. James Morgan, a fourth-round pick, he's on the Panthers practice squad. Ashton Davis, he's on the injured reserve. I mean, Bryce Hall, I think, is a solid player. I think he's a solid corner. I think he's shown that he can be a player in the NFL. I don't know if he starts on too many other NFL teams. He's probably like a guy that's coming off the bench, or like I don't know if he's a starter. I mean, it's just congratulations, the Jets got a punter in that 2020 class. But for a guy that is, and Joe Douglas, who is heralded for his drafting ability, that 2021 class raises serious concerns. And eventually, like I said, you can't expect to get 8 years to rebuild a team. You need to see substantial proof that you're headed in the right direction. 2-14 year 1 to 3 or 4 wins in year 2. That's not substantially improving anything. I mean, that's if the Jets don't start playing competitive football, if the Jets don't start seeing a lot from these guys that Joe has drafted, you're absolutely going to see the heat turned up for next year. And it's going to be a lot of heat for next year. And that's where I'm going to be curious to see if Joe changes his offseason approach, as we talked about earlier in the week. And it's going to be fascinating to watch, because we've praised Joe Douglas a lot about the number of draft picks that he's acquired, and that deserves praise. Like, the amount of draft picks he's acquired deserves praise. But here's the thing. Draft picks only matter when you pick the right players. And in 2020, it's early, but it doesn't look like the Jets picked the right players in 2020. Then obviously jury's out in 2021 because their NFL careers are 2 games old.
All right. Well, like you said, only time will tell. And also only time will tell for our can't wait picks. Last week,
I like that.
Not that great. We were all 1 and 2. So first week we did them. We'll give us a break. But you want to kick things off with which teams you're going with this week, Connor?
Yeah, so the first one I'm going to go with, and it's honestly, it's just one of those things where, in my opinion, I don't think Carson Wentz is playing. So the first game I'm going to is Colts at the Titans. Titans haven't looked great this year. It's actually been a little concerning somewhat of how they've looked. I know they finally look like they got Derrick Henry in the ground game going, but they had a stinker in the opener, and a little bit more of like I don't know. I thought the Titans would be, I believed pretty heavily in Ryan Tannehill and the Titans entering this year, and I've been a little hesitant with what I've seen. But I will say that when they're playing a team in the Colts who look like they're going to be without Carson Wentz, they're at home. It's a divisional game. I know the Colts are a hungry and feisty 0-2, but I just don't believe what they've got to back up behind Carson Wentz is going to be able to keep this one close. So Tennessee -5.5. I like that line a lot. I think this could be a 7-point game. I think this could be a 10-point game. I think it could actually balloon out, especially if the Titans defense comes to play against the backup Colts quarterback. So I think there's probably still some hope there from Vegas that Carson Wentz gets out there, and that's why the game isn't much higher than that. So if you can jump in now and get that at 5.5, assuming Carson Wentz doesn't play, I like that one a lot. So that's a game I like. The other one that I'm going to bet is actually the Eagles at the Cowboys. The Cowboys right now are favored by 3.5.
I have that one too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Same pick as you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going Cowboys. I think you saw last week the Jalen Hurts hype train come a little bit back down to earth when you're not playing a really bad Atlanta Falcons team. So I like the Cowboys. I think Dak Prescott is back. I think that offense is loaded. I think the offensive line is going to continue to get better. I think their defense with Dan Quinn is also surprisingly, I don't think they're great. They're not a top 5 unit. I don't know if they're going to be a top 10 unit, but I think they're competent. And when you have an offense that can score like Dak Prescott and the Cowboys can, competence is fine on the defensive side of the ball because you're going to score. I mean, you can spot the opponent 21 points and you're still probably going to score 34 yourself. So that's not that bad. I think that Hurts, though, came back down to earth. I think the Eagles are not a very good football team. They're going to feel that Brandon Graham injury. I saw Brandon Brooks now is probably out a chunk of time, too. I think it's a pectoral injury or triceps. I can't remember exactly what it was. Pectoral. But okay, so I like the Cowboys a lot in that game, especially at 3.5. I think that line is low. Cowboys being home, I think people are still I think people are blowing up the Eagles a little bit more than they should for beating a really bad Falcons team. I don't think people realize how bad Atlanta is going to be this year. And so that line's a little bit low. So give me Dallas -3.5 to go with, obviously Tennessee -5.5. And then I'll also go with a dog, and that's the Packers on the road against the 49ers. I know the 49ers are 2-0, but Jimmy G has not looked very good this year, and Kyle Shanahan seems devoted to him anyway, almost to a fault. Trey Lance should be playing. I think the Packers were slapped in the face week 1. I think they were embarrassed week 1, and I think you saw against the Lions what a motivated, angry, and pissed off Aaron Rodgers can do. So this line right now is surprisingly to me, the Packers are dogs. They're 3-point dogs. I like the Packers outright in this game, but I especially like them giving them like being spotted a field goal. So give me the Packers +3. So my 3 picks for the week: Titans -5.5, Cowboys -3.5, and then the Packers +3.
All right. Well, I will read Tim's picks really quick because he is also picking the Packers +3. He also is picking the Jets +10.5. So there you go. After last week, he picked against the Jets. He is riding with the Jets this week. And then he is also doing Patriots -3. I, on the other hand, am doing Cowboys -3.5 versus Eagles, like you said. I'm also pretty big on the Ravens -8 versus the Lions. I know that's a big spread, but the Ravens looked really, really good versus the Chiefs last week. So we will see on that one. And then, as you mentioned, the Falcons have not looked great. So I'm going with the G-Men -2.5. I think
There you go.
after that devastating loss on Thursday Night Football last week, they're going to come out firing. So we shall see. But any final thoughts, Connor, before we wrap this thing up and you go explore Denver?
Yeah, no, that's it for me. That's all for me. I might actually take a little nap now after this one. This is I'm telling you, that commute was like Bree and I get to the airport, we find out it's delayed 2.5 hours. Then it's like a long flight in general, the dropping Andy off, getting here, checking in. There was a problem checking. It was the commute from hell. It really is. So I'm dragging today. I'm hoping to get a second wind here in a little bit.
All right. Well, sleepy Connor. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Again, if you have not subscribed to The Athletic, it is still 50% off if you go to theathletic.com/can'twait. We will be back on Monday morning to recap the Jets game versus the Broncos.
Actually, I think we're back Monday.
You said Monday.
Oh, yeah, we can do Monday because I'm still going to be here. So that's fine. I'm flying home Tuesday. So, yeah, we can do Monday. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Monday, we will be back to recap the game versus the Broncos. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we will talk to you soon.